Guest tonight played one of the most intolerant characters I've ever seen in recent film history with his stunning portrayal of a witch-hunting congressman in The Contender. He can currently be seen in the film Hannibal, which opened today. I don't exactly know what he plays in the movie, but I think it might be an entree. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a truly brilliant actor, Gary Oldman. It's very disconcerting to see you come out in such a hip outfit after just watching you in The Contender, where you were the quintessential backbench weasel.
Yeah, I am, in those very stiff collars and three-piece suits.
Now, let me use your character in that film. I don't know if you haven't seen The Contender, you must go rent it this weekend because it's truly a stunning film. Mr. Oldman's portrayal in it is amazing to me. As a matter of fact, my wife was a huge fan of yours. It was around 20 minutes in before she realized it was you. You had so immersed yourself in the character. But I was wondering as I watched that man, was he an intolerant man when you went to put him together? Or was he just brilliant in a Machiavellian sense as far as tactics went? And do you think people in high politics who pretend to be intolerant, i.e. Bob Barr, these people we see who seem so strident, is it just a position they've taken?
Yeah, I think that I would certainly like to see more honesty. I think that the most sort of valued human commodity is truth. And without it, you can't have real love, and you can't have respect, and you can't have real caring and understanding. And
can a man in a position of power even vaguely afford to be honest, though, do you think?
Well, there's the push and pull. He's being tugged from, I guess, from so many sides, and there's and there's the sort of the public persona. You're contaminated. It's very easy to be, I think, corrupted. I mean, I think that the guy in the Contender, Shelley Runyon, I thought that he was a real patriot. That's how I played him. I think that he, unfortunately, his Achilles heel was the thing that he got the sex scandal, the alleged sex scandal, and he went for the cheap shot. And who wouldn't, if that came across your desk? I mean, we see it all the time. But I really do believe that he felt that woman, Lane Hanson, was not up for the job. And it wasn't about her being a woman or anything like that. He thought that she wasn't good for the country.
And this was the cudgel he used to eliminate her from the scenario, or attempt to eliminate her.
And she led him to believe that it was true. So she never denied it.
We don't want to tip the... I mean, it's really a brilliant movie. You have to go see it. There's a lot of twists and turns. It's directed by a guy who, for years, I used to read his criticism in LA Magazine and think, God, this guy is such a mean guy to actors. I can't believe it. When I saw his name on that, I'll be quite frank, I was stunned that Rod Lurie was capable of directing like that, because he always seems so malicious to me.
Yeah, I was stunned when I read his name on the script.
What's your take on Bush at this point, now, early on in his thing? Do you sense any honesty from him? In a weird way, I sense that he's kind of shooting straight.
Yeah, I do. And I think, thus far, I think he's done a pretty good job. I think he's doing what he was elected to do, you know. And, I mean, the spin is always, you know, they talk about conservatives, and it's neoconservatives, or it's the hard right, or the extreme right. It's just a conservative, you know. But, you know, it's coming from the other side, I think. It's the intolerance from...
Well, yeah, it seems like the only reason for the loyal opposition anymore is to literally beat the shit out of the other guy. I just think you have to give him a chance for a while. Listen, I don't look at Bush, and I'm not summoned to the parapets. I don't think he's the Mahatma, but for God's sakes, at this point, I at least look at him and see, you know what, he seems less full of shit than some of these guys I see. He at least seems to be, you know, when you have Ted Kennedy over to a cash bar to watch a movie at the White House, wow, that's a big step.
But you got to think that Ted Kennedy has not only found a new friend, he's also found a sponsor. That's how I saw it. I thought, this could only be good.
Well, you say sports. Are there any events in your life that have increased? You seem like a tolerant person.
I am,
You seem like live and let live. What has led you to that point in your life? Were you always like that, or were you?
No. I think that alcoholism really brought me to my knees, and I mean literally crawling across the floor, and I needed something that I put many things in. I put the drink in front of everything else. And I just had completely, emotionally and spiritually lost my way. And I found, a God, a God of my understanding. I had to put something before me. Mm-hmm. It was, I was the piece of shit that the world revolved around. And And I was, I'd find, a Hate Gary club, and I would join it. I'd be, yeah.
Oh, you must have been insidious on yourself, because when I watch your work, I always think, boy, this guy must have a stranglehold on the human condition to convey these emotions so accurately. When you turned against yourself, that must have been an unholy war, my friend.
It was, yes, it was. It was. And they say, I would never do to another human being what I would do to myself.
Right.
I would never treat anyone like that.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of really learn some humility, and I did the thing. I went to rehab, and I washed up and waited tables, and my counselor would come by and he would go, "How's it feel, movie star?"
Well, and that's what you need, somebody supportive in your corner.
And, and I learned, I think, just to be more tolerant. And, bad driving that's my pet peeve. That I want to get out the car and just strangle people. It's something about the car, and it's here.
Well, stay in the car, because if you get out of the car,
they might shoot me. But I've driven all over the world. In LA, it's like no one signals. They just stop, chat with their friends, and
that's the one area you're still intolerant, right?
Yeah,
You've tidied up the rest of it. You've been clean since Tuesday of last week. No. Now, what traits do you find that intolerant people have in common? What do you think the root cause of it?
Well, it would appear at the moment most of them are Democrats.
Well, listen, when you watch now, this will be an abject lesson. And I'm not saying I'm Democrat, I'm not saying I'm Republican, but if you fuck up as a Democrat, they'll beat the shit out of you. Gore's never going to get back in, man. He might juggle at one of their parties somewhere along the line. Trust me, he's not getting in the game again.
Yeah, no, he won't.
It gets pretty mean.
Yeah.
Do you think politicians are more intolerant of each other now, or do you think religious people are more intolerant of each other?
We're in such a ridiculous age of it's political correctitude has taken over. It's taken the place of common sense, and that's that's what I think is we're so fractionalized and.
Well, when you say we, do you talk about the community man, or do you live in England now, or do you live here?
I live in Los Angeles. I mean, where are we going as a culture?
Splitsville. We're going to have like 200 million separate states. You're in Dennisville now.
Yeah, but I mean, I read somewhere that there was someone saying something about should there be a gay history class? Should that be taught in schools? And so that's another little group that kind of like breaks off. Well, what about a tolerance class? Wouldn't then that would pretty much cover it, I think.
Yeah, but I find a lot of these factionalized groups now draw their strength and indeed draw their forward impetus from, and it's like sports teams now. Don't you notice that every sports team you see talks about us versus them? I mean, it almost seems like nobody can dwell on their own legitimacy. Nobody can instill their own sense of self-esteem and just move forward and shirk off all the fucking idiots and the naysayers. Everybody has to sort of cocoon and say, these guys are all out to get me, and that's what I'm going to use to fuel my own engine. It seems like a bad motivation to me.
Yeah, well, I think that, I mean, no, well, of course, time will tell, but I mean, in Bush's speech, inauguration speech, he talked about we must become citizens. We must become like citizens, not spectators. And I take that as we've got to take a bit more responsibility.
Well, for anybody who can knock off "ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country" in a speech done by a famous Democrat. I mean, in essence, Bush is saying the same thing there.
Yeah.
Shows that I think he's going to at least try some hands across the water.
Yeah, he really is.
Now, let me tell you this in closing. I have to say this, and I'm not saying this to be deliberately naive. I've never seen you interviewed. I've always found you a bit enigmatic. It's part of your charm to me. You want to know how brilliant an actor you are? I never knew you were British. I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, what's with the fucking accent? What is that?
Well, because Rod Laurie would call that the Stockholm Syndrome. That's what I'm suffering from.
You're a great artist. I admire your work a lot. Gary Oldman, ladies and gentlemen, stick around. I'll be right back.